Yeah, okay. Just a second. I will get everybody in a second. Oh. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to get started late. I'm here at my lab and yeah, lost track of time. Sorry. Okay. We're just waiting for everybody to come online. So,
Professor, how long is this meeting? I'm just wondering.
oh, well, the presentations are going to run 40 minutes and then the total is, including discussion, is till 9, 2 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, since we're getting started a little late, we might as well just get started. Why don't we get started by going around the room and introducing ourselves. I'm Eric Lerner. I'm with Jobs and Equal Rights for All and the International Luxembourgist Network. Alyssa, you want to introduce yourself? Okay. 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 Well, Gabriel, why don't you introduce yourself? You're one of the speakers, Gabriel Morales.
Hi, my name is Gabriel. I am the interim executive director of Brand Workers, a immigrant worker center based out of Long Island City here in New York.
Okay, thank you. Marcial is another one of our speakers, Marcial Morales. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name is Marcial Morales Garcia. I was a detainee in Essex and Bergen County, and I got released not about 5 months ago. And today I'm here to share my story about what happened in the detention center.
Okay. And our third invited speaker is Bryan. Bryan, you want to introduce yourself? Bryan?
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm late.
No problem. Do you want to introduce yourself, Bryan?
Okay, well, my name is Bryan Vergara. I was detained in Hudson County for almost 5 months. Today is my 3 months when I get out from the jail. I'm here for help, you know. I just I'm sorry, my English is not very good, but I wanna do my best.
Your English is great, actually. Okay, so let's just go around the room. Alyssa, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Alyssa. I'm sorry. I'm a junior here at CSI. That's really all I got.
Okay, can you turn off the background? Sorry. Okay. Avram?
Yes. Yes, I'm Avram Rips. I'm with the New Caucus, New Public Schools, activists in labor, labor activities and other activities.
Okay. Gabriela?
Hi everyone, my name is Gabby, pronoun she, they. I'm here with the New York State Youth Leadership Council. I heard about this through the Abolish ICE New Jersey, New York coalition. Yeah.
Okay. Jay?
Yeah, so I'm Jay Arena. I'm wearing a number of hats. One is
Turn on your volume, Jay. Too loud.
oh, so, okay. Is that okay?
It's pretty loud, but all right.
I'm sorry, I can't. Hold on. Oh, here. How is that?
That's okay.
Yeah, so Jay Arena, I'm with Jobs and Equal Rights for All. I'm a professor at College Staten Island, and a number of my students are here and very eager to learn about this organization and the efforts to close the concentration camp, ICE concentration camps, and how that's connected to worker rights.
Okay. Justin?
Hi, my name is Justin, and I'm a junior at CSI.
Okay, thank you. Justin. Martha?
Hi, I'm Martha, and I was sophomore at CSI. I'm one of Professor Arena's students.
Michelle? Michelle, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle Vitals. I am a junior sociology major at CSI, and I am just here to listen in on the discussion.
Phylese?
Hi, I'm a junior at College of Staten Island. I'm one of Mr. Arena's students, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Qwateesha?
Hi, my name is Qwateesha Williams. I'm a student at CSI, and I'm one of Professor Arena's students as well.
Okay. All right, well, let's get started without further ado. The first speaker is going to be Marcial.
Could you just say a few words about Jobs and Equal Rights for All?
Okay, Jay, you say a few words about Jobs and Equal Rights for All. At the moment, I'm unfortunately double tasking here at the lab.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, can people hear me okay? Is it too loud?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so I just want to welcome everyone. Jobs and Equal Rights for All is a group in New Jersey, and we have been, you know, at the front lines of the movement to end the Immigrant Customs Enforcement, ICE, jails, what we call concentration camps, that are run in New Jersey by local counties, and there's a private one as well. So we've been very much involved in that movement, and we see the connection between worker rights and immigrant rights. And so we're against all these jails. What we're for, we've been fighting for. So we're against something, but we've been fighting for jobs for all through a public works program, free public services like education, healthcare, transportation, and equal rights for all. And to get that, we need to be united, all workers, be they immigrants or those born here. And that's will be part of the focus of this presentation, of this educational, is why, if you're not an immigrant or you're a documented immigrant, why nonetheless you have an interest in ending the ICE concentration camps and winning full legalization, full citizenship rights for all. And so that will be, so some of you here might have a question. Now, what is my interest? What interest do I have in ending that system, right? What stake, a material stake, do I have in ending that system, right? And so we'll be having some guests here. And Bryan, you speak English excellently. You know, you're doing fine. You're doing a fine job. But we have some. You're really lucky to have people that have not only been in that system that are going to be reporting back, but have resisted that. And so we'll be talking too how we can connect the resistance on the inside with those on the outside to close all these concentration camps. So I'll end there, and then we're going to have our moderator and speaker Eric Lerner return here shortly. Does anybody have any questions? So is there any questions out there from the student angle? So this is being sponsored by Jobs and Equal Rights for All. You know, you want to include that in your report. But we have a number of different organizations that are involved, including Gabriel Morales with the brand workers. That's in New York City, right? Okay, a number of the students are from New York, Brooklyn and Staten Island in particular. So, and then Gabrielle, what group are you with? Gabriela?
Yeah, I'm with the New York State Youth Leadership Council.
Okay. I think I've heard of that. I've seen you on the meetings on the Abolish ICE. And maybe could you tell the students a little bit about the Abolish ICE New Jersey network?
Yeah. All right, I'll try my best.
Oh, you can do okay.
So yeah, I believe that the Abolish New Jersey, New York coalition started from conversations of trying to end detention and deportations, and the realization that we needed to come together between the two states, because oftentimes folks that were being detained in New York were being later transferred into New Jersey in their detention centers. So it is an effort to shut down detention centers, what I like to say concentration camps,
right, in
both New Jersey and New York. So that's my explanation of it. I hope that's good.
Okay, no, that's excellent. Yeah, and so just so the context, a little bit more political context. So in northern New Jersey, Essex County, which is where Newark is the county seat, Bergen County, which is Hackensack, Hudson County, which is Jersey City, all of those counties have contracts with ICE to imprison immigrants, and they get money for that. And then there's a private one in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Now, the recent development, the context victory is that in Essex County, in Newark, the local government, after we've been fighting, you know, this movement has been fighting for years, has just announced that they are moving out all the ICE detainees, and it appears ending the contract. That's what we've got to, guarantee. But that's a really big victory. And in a major factor, it was people fighting on the outside, but also people resisting on the inside, like Bryan, like Marcial, and other detainees who have gone on hunger strikes to demand their release, right? So think about, we've talked about Piven, disruptive power, disruption, withdrawing your cooperation. There are many ways that that happens. One of those is collectively prisoners refusing to eat. But that's a rule breaker, right? And they faced a lot of punishment for that, and they will be talking about that courageous actions that they took. But that also contributed, that disruption contributed to the authorities deciding to finally end this contract. Now, the struggle has not ended, right? So there are these other facilities in New Jersey, and of course there are many others around the country, but this is kind of part of a growing national movement, which will also be discussed. Okay, I think our Eric. Okay, well, Gabriel, why don't you begin your presentation and then Eric will be coming in. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Let me see. Let me move. I got a bunch of notes all over the place. Let me move that over there. And this over here. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm happy to get started. So again, my name is
Yes,
Gabriel.
go ahead, Gabriel.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Gabriel. I am with the organization Brand Workers. But before I begin, I just wanted to thank all of you all for giving me the opportunity to speak about our organization and our campaigns. Brand Workers, we're an organization of food factory workers building a union, building unions with the industrial workers of the world. And so we're based here in Long Island City. I'm talking to you from my apartment here in Queens. And our organization, we have a unique, at least for 2021, we feel like it's a unique approach to organizing, trying to unlock the potential of local food manufacturing. And so the members of the organization have achieved really like dramatic victories in a variety of factories all across the city. There's a corridor of essentially food factories that run through Queens, like down into Brooklyn, where a lot of the food that you all eat is made there. And so Brand Workers members have achieved victories in those factories, including really substantial improvements in wages, working conditions, millions of dollars in illegally withheld pay through wage theft. Um, and so I don't want to get too deep into our organization, but and I I do want to talk about our Tomcat campaign. It's a Tomcat Bakery, which is an artisanal bakery here in in New York. But I also don't want to get too much into the particulars of what happened in the campaign. What I do want to talk to you all about is like what are some of the learnings that we've identified coming out of the campaign, because the campaign is different than a lot of the campaigns that you all have heard about, read in the news. You know, this campaign is about almost a different wing of ICE. ICE has the detention centers that you're going to hear about today. It does the raids, but they also have this mechanism called the I-9 audit. And I'm happy to answer questions about like what the I-9 audit is exactly. But suffice to say, it's just another weapon in ICE's arsenal of destroying immigrant communities. And so ICE hit Tomcat Bakery with an I-9 audit in 2017, and ICE and Tomcat essentially collaborated with ICE, just like a lot of businesses right now, and have been collaborating with ICE, especially when it's in their interest to stop organizing campaigns. Like ICE is often used as a cudgel to like destroy uh, new immigrant organizing. And so really, if I just want to take the most important, like we've identified 7 really important steps, and again, I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to talk about these 7 steps that we've identified for organizations, for communities to take in order to be sure that you all are prepared for this dangerous time for immigrant workers and immigrant communities as a whole. And so being prepared for the ICE I-9 audit process involves work across these 7 areas. There's a lot of resources that can help you, either in your community or with your organization or with your coworkers. And I'm happy to get into that as well. But Okay, so 7 steps, and then and then I'll be done. So the first 2 steps are really foundational steps. It's like the baseline. You're not going to get anywhere unless you do the first 2 steps. The next 3, so 2 are foundational. The next 3 are about setting up the infrastructure for your communities, for your organization, or for your workplace. So the next 3 are about infrastructure and setting up good infrastructure, and then the final 2 are about how to do a good job campaigning. So 2 foundational steps, 3 infrastructure steps, and 2 campaigning steps. 7 steps. So let's talk about the first 2 real quick, and please, Eric or Jay, give me some time, time indicators to let me know if I'm going long or if I got more time. And so let's talk about the first 2 steps. The first step in order to get your community, your workplace, your organization ready for the I-9 audit process is making sure that one-on-one legal counseling is provided to members with status concerns. So this one-on-one legal counseling allows members to understand like their risk profile, and it allows them to exhaust all of their options to adjust their status before like the consequences of the I-9 audit like happen. And so it, most importantly, like having one-on-one legal counseling allows folks to make preparations for their families. For example, like making child custody arrangements in case of removal. So in New York City, for example, we've worked with and we recommend here in New York City Catholic Migration Services. And so that's a good resource for you all to use. Okay, so that's step 1, one-on-one legal counseling. Step 2 is making sure that your organization, your community, your workplace is providing know your rights trainings to prepare the membership for encounters with ICE. And so the trainings include like distribution of know your rights materials. I'm sure that many of you all are familiar with that. I'll leave it right there. I won't get much into it because I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with the Know Your Rights framework. But speaking from our experience, again, here in New York City, the Immigrant Defense Project, in partnership with the Center for Constitutional Rights, is really they're really a good resource. And so you should take advantage of resources that you have in the community. So these first 2 steps, the one-on-one legal counseling and the Know Your Rights trainings, provide the baseline for your preparations. But in our campaign, in our Tomcat campaign, our I-9 campaign, we found that those 2, they're just not enough. It's not enough to just have like that foundation. If you're not doing those 2 things, like you're lost. Forget it. Like forget it. But if you just do those 2 things, you're not doing enough. So so you've made a lot of progress, but if you get hit by an audit at this point, there's gonna be a lot of harm that's done. So that's the first 2 steps. The next 3 steps are all about infrastructure. So what do your committees look like? That's 1, or 3. 4 is, have you done financial hardship fundraising? And then number 5 is really important, but oftentimes overlooked in our organizations, and that's like mental health support. And so that's step 3, 4, and 5. So let's start with step 3. You might want to think about like subcommittees for a particular campaign that you're involved in, or a particular like area of work that you're involved in, like legal, media, rapid response. But these next 2 committees that I want to talk about they're kind of like critical. I would start with like making sure that you have your communication channels ready to go, and understood by everyone in your community. And so you need to make sure that you're clear on which communication channels are going to be used for what purpose and who is accessing those channels. You got to be aware of like safety concerns and things like that. The second committee that you need to make sure that you have is the immigrant, like just a general immigrant safety committee of membership, staff members, trusted allies. Uh, People should just be clear on like, who are we informing in case there's an audit, in case there's a raid? Who are we calling? Who are the emergency contacts? What is the plan? Like, what works? Are we going to go to the work site? Are we supporting workers directly, or are we supporting community members directly? Who's responsible for documentation, for note taking, photo taking, video recording? Who's responsible for getting legal counsel? Who's responsible for getting legal observers? Who's alerting the news media? All of these things are critical infrastructure to have in place, and these are critical committees to have in place before something bad happens. So move on to step number 4, which is hardship fundraising. Raise funds, obviously. With brand workers in our I-9 audit campaign, we've now raised about $65,000 for workers that were impacted by the I-9 audit, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't even close to enough. The amount of financial hardship that the ICE audit puts on immigrant workers is just staggering. It's just staggering, and you need to be clear about that point with membership, with donors, no matter what your fundraising goal ends up being, and regardless of how much you're trying to raise or how much you're not trying to raise, or whatever platform you're going to use, Facebook, GoFundMe, whatever, you need to make sure that you're very transparent about the work, that like workers know where that money is going, how is it going to be allocated, like what is the time frame for it to be allocated through. It's going to save you a lot of headaches if you set up that infrastructure before anything bad happens. The fifth step, the final infrastructure step, is about supporting mental health. It's just an extremely valuable piece of work. It really just gets overlooked all the time. To support the community, to support membership with mental, psychological, physical trauma that accompanies these audits, because they are extremely traumatic. Workers are facing job loss. They don't know when armed agents are going to barge through their door. And so just make sure that you're creating safety space, creating safety and check-ins where people can discuss like how folks are doing, things like that. And so those are the 3 infrastructure steps. I know I'm kind of going on maybe too long, so I'll wrap it up really quick, or try to wrap it up really quick with the final 2 steps, which for some reason ended up in our Tomcat I-9 campaign, ended up being like the most controversial, because the final 2 steps are about preparing and executing a campaign to resist ICE. And so step 6 is around like building that campaign specifically against like a particular target. We've worked with organizations like the National Employment Law Project and the National Immigration Law Center, and other worker and community organizations, to be able to articulate the demands of the campaign. And I think that it's important for you all to know that in an ICE I-9 audit, that employers can do a lot to prevent the harm that results from the I-9 audit. But it's not going to happen out of the goodness of these bosses' hearts. It's not going to happen unless we build a movement together for immigrant worker protection in the entire economy. And you should start preparing now. And so the final thing is just making sure that if you are choosing to protest your employer or your government in the event of an audit, that you use the what we've come to understand as like the best practices for running an organizing campaign. So making sure that you're doing your charts and your social maps, and you're having good conversations that educate folks about the issues, that inoculate them against what the boss is going to do, that push people towards collective action. And yeah, that's it. Those are 7 steps to get your organization, to get your community, to get your school prepared for an ICE I-9 audit. And I'm happy to take any questions after the other speakers. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Gabrielle. Actually, before we go on, I just have one question, which is, one of the basic themes is how ICE interferes with immigrant rights. Can you give an example from your own organizing of how employers have used ICE against an organizing effort?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the number of examples are almost too numerous
Or just
to count.
Just take one.
But essentially, what happens often is that a group of workers begin the organizing process, and the employer will call ICE and initiate an ICE I-9 audit on themselves,
right,
in order to break the organizing, the drive from even getting off the ground. And so oftentimes, when bosses start hearing rumors about groups of workers that are starting to organize, ICE gets called.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that has to get across to the broader labor movement, is that without the confronting of ICE, the employers can always call upon ICE against the workers. So look, let's go on to the next speaker. I'm sorry again, but so Marcial, you're going to speak next, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead, Marcial.
Yes.
You have about 10 minutes. Okay.
Oh, well, all right. So I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what I lived in ICE custody, and what happened with me, and whatever still happened. Okay, in 2018, July 17, 2018, I was detained and held in the jail for 21 months. I had it fight my case. I went to trial. I had a hung jury. So at the end, when I had the hung jury, they came out saying that if you take a plea deal, you go home and see your family today. So the offer was time served and you go home today. What eventually didn't happen. When I took the plea, ICE came and picked me up. They brought me down to Essex County. When I got moved to Essex County, where was the nightmare start? I am diabetic and I have high blood pressure, and I have a major depression disorder. So I have to have insulin regardless on the conditions or whatever I'm at. The first 2 days they didn't give me no insulin. I was putting complaints every day about getting my medical treatment, and it didn't happen. They forced me to learn the rights, to study the law in Essex County. In 3 months in Essex County, I learned my rights thanks to some representatives from legal organization. They were giving me advice how to study, how to learn my rights, and I started fighting back, like trying to get my medication, and but it never happened. And then my depression went too high, and I lost my hope to get released alive in Essex County when the pandemic started. Everything went wrong. They had and they didn't have enough food for the detainees. They were giving us the same thing 3 times a day. So on the end was like nobody wanted to eat because it was the same food every day. When I got the COVID, I got sick with the COVID. We were 48 guys on the same dorm, and everybody was sick. I remember one day, it was a Saturday in the morning. Everybody was in bed around 10 o'clock when the lunch came. Nobody got up. Only the guard was up, and so we start complaining about it that everybody was sick. So eventually, the day Monday, they brought the medicals to do the COVID test. Out of the 48 guys in one dorm, only 2 were not infected with the virus. So they took me down to quarantine. They put me alone there, not allowed to make phone calls, not allowed to talk to my family or use a tablet. They weren't giving me a medication. They just throw me on the room and they tell me, okay, drink a lot of juice. But I was locked in a cell without water. There is no clean water inside those quarantine units. So they kept me there for 21 days. After 21 days, I was complaining. I called my lawyer, and my lawyer wrote to the jail. So they came and brought me up again to the unit with all the other detainees were. I was there for another 3 months, and then I start putting complaints about my medical problems, that they were not giving me the insulin. And then I was doing about 3 or 4 complaints every day. So the supervisor, Peralta, came and said to me, if you keep harassing the officers in here, we're gonna take the privilege away from you. You won't be allowed to use tablets or any communication. So I start arguing with him, and I said to him, I read the jail is manual. In nowhere, in anywhere of the jail or in the manual cell that you are allowed to take the privileges of me to use the tablet. Is that I can do it. I say, you can do it because you do whatever it takes illegally to do whatever you want. He got so mad at me. Next day, I woke up in Bergen County. They transferred me from Essex County to Bergen County, and then they put me in quarantine again in Bergen County. So when they put me in quarantine there, I lost the last piece of hope that I had to get released alive. One day I called my family and I said to them, guys, I love you guys so much. And doesn't matter what happened or where I am or where I go, I still love you guys. And I told them, okay, I'm gonna start a hunger strike. I know a hunger strike for a diabetic is very dangerous because the sugar will go low and then I gonna pass out eventually. So I told the ICE officer, listen, if you don't release me, I will go on a hunger strike. They go like, you're not getting release. So I start the hunger strike. Send other guys. I put it together and say, you guys are diabetics, you guys have asthma based on fried hot, you guys are eligible for a humanitarian parole. They should give us a humanitarian parole, but they were refusing to do that. So I put 10 guys together and we started the hunger strike. 2 days after we start the hunger strike, the same supervisor, Supervisor Peralta, came to Bergen County too. And he said to me, and these were, what the hell are you doing here too? Like he knew it was me again. So the officer asked him, "Do you know him?" "Yes, I know him very well." So he said, "What are you doing?" I said, I am doing a hunger strike." "But why?" I said, "Based on Freiheit, I am eligible for humanitarian parole." He said, "I'm not an attorney. I'm not here to answer your question." I said, "I'm not asking you a question. I'm telling you." He said, "I'm not a lawyer, but if you don't eat, I will take all your commissary away, and I'm gonna put you in a solitary compartment, and I will force feed you." I said, "You're not allowed to do that." "We'll see." So he said, I can do it if I want to." "So you're not allowed to do that, and that's the only thing you come to tell me?" I said, "You just better get out of here." He said, "Are you harassing me?" I said, "I'm not harassing you. Just telling you you shouldn't be here if you're not gonna come with a solution for our problems." So he called the police on me, saying that I was harassing him. They put me in the hole for 15 days. So I said, I won't stop the hunger strike. Everybody got scared when they saw that they put me in the hole. They told everybody was gonna go. So everybody like quit the hunger strike. I didn't. They took me down. The 3 days after they came down and going like, "Okay, you're gonna have to eat. Other than that, we're gonna put you on suicide watch because we think you are trying to kill yourself." I said, "I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm trying to get released." So they took me from the hole and they put me on a medical. They call it a medical watch, whatever. They took my clothes. They had me naked for 3 days with no blankets, no clean water to drink. When I used to ask for water, they used to bring me juice because I wasn't eating. They knew my sugar was low. So they used to bring me juice. So I wasn't allowed to, like, I wasn't drinking no juice at all because eventually my sugar was, I was hoping to my sugar to go down to make some pressure on them. So after 3 days, they had me naked on the room without making me quit the hunger strike. So they gave me my clothes back and they brought me back to the hole. So that one good CO gave me opportunity to make one phone call because I wasn't allowed to use the phone call because Supervisor Peralta told them not to let me use a phone. One good officer, I asked him, and he said, "Okay, you are allowed to use the phone for 20 minutes." So I called a friend to submit a Freiheit application again. And she said, "We did the request already, do it again." So she did it. This was Friday. So the ICE officer came again and said to me, "If you still on hunger strike, we cannot review any request you put on because you are on a hunger strike. You need to quit the hunger strike for us to review your request." I said, "I'd rather be dead than be in here." I made that decision, and I was a pretty strong holding on my word to them. I never thought I was gonna get released. All my thoughts were that I was going to die. But I didn't have no hope at all, so I was willing to die. The day 9 in my hunger strike, they went to the hole and get me with handcuffs, and they brought me to medical. My sugar was 41 that day. So they got panic. And they went like, "If you don't need, you're gonna pass out on us. You're gonna die." So I said to them, "I told you guys from the beginning, if you guys don't release me, you better get a body back, but I won't eat. I have to get released, either alive or dead." So they said, "No, we cannot release you. You better eat," the doctor said. Nobody ever got released before based on hunger strike. So it most like you're gonna die. I said, I'm willing to die. If you're not gonna hug my family, you're not gonna see my kids, I'd rather be dead. This was in the morning, around 11 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock, the officer came and knocked on my door and said, Morales, get ready. You getting moved? I thought they released my whole time because they gave me 15 days. They said you have to go to medical. When I went to medical, they say you have to go to intake. When I went in tech, they gave me my regular clothes. And after I knew it that I was in tech. In tech is the room where they put everybody when they get released. My heart was beating so hard that today I close my eyes and I still like I can hear my heart beating. When they told we cannot release you here, but we're gonna take you to Newark. Your brother is coming to pick you up. I have those words so deep in my mind that every day I can still hear the sound of the voice of this guy saying, your brother is coming to pick you up. Because the only thing I had in my mind was I was going to die. Thank God I got released. It took me 3 days to believe that I was at home. And since that date, I haven't stopped taking calls from the detainees and calling every organization I can to let them know that I left brothers behind. I left brothers wondering if their kids went to bed hungry every day. And now I thank you so much. I thank everybody who is helping me. Jake, he has been with me all the time. All those organizations that are helping me to bring this news out and let everybody know that there is no American dream behind those walls. That's American nightmare. And thank you for the time. And thank you for the time you guys are giving to my brothers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcial. Yeah, it's a very moving speech, and we're going to make sure that this gets out to a much broader audience. This whole event is being recorded, and it's going to be up on YouTube, and it will get out to a very broad audience.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm the next speaker. I will just say a few words before going on to Bryan. I just want to give a little historical context. I've been part of this movement for a long time, and also part of the labor movement. And if you look back at the history of the labor movement in the United States, the labor movement has only moved forward when there is an alliance of all workers, when the divisions that the capitalists attempt to set up are overcome. And the biggest example of that was in the 1930s, where the United States had closed its doors in the 1920s, but we were coming off of a huge wave of immigration, almost the same size as the current wave, maybe a little bigger, from the 1900s to the 1920s. And all of the tricks and the racism that was now directed against immigrants from Latin America, from Asia, that was then directed against immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, from the Poles, the Russians, the Italians especially. it was only when the labor movement consciously sought to overcome those divisions that they could overcome the oppression of workers generally. And that happened in the 1930s, in the midst of a depression, when unemployment was greater than it is today. In the midst of a depression with 25% of the workforce unemployed, they were able to come together, concretely unifying immigrants, native born, employed and unemployed, in mass strikes. This was at a time in which striking in general was illegal in the United States. To a large extent, it's still illegal because strikes can only occur legally under very restricted conditions. So what happened was that there were strikes, for example, in San Francisco, where the longshoremen went out on strike, led, in fact, by an immigrant from Australia. And when the police, the National Guard, came to repress these strikes, the entire labor movement unified behind the strikes, and there was a general strike during the summer of 1934. There were general strikes in San Francisco, Minneapolis, and in Ohio. So this may seem unimaginable, people knowing the United States as it is today, but you had strikes in which the entire city was shut down by strikes. And these were not just unionized workers striking, these were the unorganized workers striking. So when we talk about the need today to combat ICE, we're talking about the need to remove the fear of detention and deportation from a huge section of the population who either is themselves undocumented or they have undocumented people in their families. What we need to do, and I think we should bring this out in the discussion period, is ask, how do we get labor organizations, people working in the workplaces, to demand the end of detentions and deportations? Because we have a situation today where even at the level of the federal government, they say, oh, we're not in favor of detention and deportation. Supposedly, Biden put out an order to stop deportations. Now, deportations haven't actually stopped. But that's the question. How do we mobilize the power of labor to stop these detentions so that the entire immigrant section of the population can feel free to organize freely? And the sort of horrors that Gabrielle described, these ICE raids, will stop because there will be no detentions, there will be no deportations, there'll be no reason for ICE to do the I-9 kind of raids. That's the sort of thing we have to discuss. In Essex County, we have had a major victory. After 4 years, we have forced the Essex County to end the contract to detain people in the Essex Detention Center by ICE. So that happened just last week. So we have to ask, what's the next step? How do we go from that to preventing the people who will be moved out of Essex to being moved to other places, make sure that they are released? How do we spread this to Hudson, to Bergen? What's the next steps? So that's the sort of thing that I think we can discuss during the discussion period. So with that, I'm going to conclude and turn it over to Bryan.
Okay. I just want to say the short history because I know the more people want to speak. Like I said, my name is Bryan Vergara. in September 2020, ICE took me in Long Island, Mineola. When they took me, they said that I have no right for fight my case because I came with visa waiver. So I spoke with a lawyer, the free lawyer, and she said that they were lying because everybody have the chance for fight the case, you know. So they took me straight to Hudson County with no order in deportation, just is a paper saying that I cannot see the judge. So my lawyer put some papers and I could see the judge, no? So when I was in Hudson County, I saw a lot of people with several medical situations, and the nurse don't do nothing for these people, nothing. So like Marcial, I put the people together, 24 people for make a hunger strike. So when we start to hunger strike, they send one guy, the name is Oscar Aviles. He did the paper with ICE for put the immigrant in Hudson County. So he told me that in New Jersey, I'm not sure if the senators or politic people, they send some law for close all the detention center in New Jersey. He said maybe if Biden is president, they're gonna approve the law. For now, I don't see nothing. So he said stop the hunger strike, and you're gonna see all the detention center gonna stop. So we'll stop for 5 days. And I say, if you don't bring some ICE officer who wants to speak with immigrant people, we're going to continue. So nobody. Yeah, one guy, the name is Mohammed Khan. He go to the section, and he said, "Bro, I'm not here for help you. I'm here for deport you." So I said, "All right, that's fine. We want to continue doing the hunger strike." So the next week, like 10 days in hunger strike, they put me like Marcial in the they call the medical area, but I was without water. They put me naked in the cell. That was dirty. And use drinking water, but the water I have to go to the nurse because in my sink there wasn't water. So it's like a 1 glass per day. So in 15 days, I called somebody from the street, and she said that I have to stop the hunger strike because ICE was moving people to other jails like Orange County or Buffalo. So I said, all right, stop. So when I stopped the hunger strike, my lawyer, they sent a Freiheit application. But I saw a lot of people doing the application, and ICE deny all the Freiheit. They put like excuse like, oh no, he's a criminal because he smoked weed 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So Alexandria Ocasio, she sent a letter saying that they have to release me for my medical situation. I think that letter was the motivo because ICE released me. But the other thing, we are working outside. I'm free, so I'm working with another organizations, and I think it's not working because I speak with more people who's in jail, and they told me that ICE is bringing more people to the jails, like 10 or 15 people. the jails are full. So the ICE is not supposed to arrest people in New York, use people with aggravated felonies. But the people say is the same people like with misdemeanors or violations. I think that's not right. So we are thinking now in organized people in Queens and make actions. Go to the attack the judges, and special Charles Conrad is one judge is really racist, homophobic, and now we are working in that, trying to speak with people and making social conscience. That's I don't know what more to say.
Okay, Bryan, you're finished?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's open it up for questions and comments, and especially, this is just the start of the discussion, obviously, but the question is, what do we do next? So people should just, we're a small group, so you don't have to raise hands, just speak out. No questions? No discussion? Bryan? Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for Bryan.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, when were you detained again?
I was in September 2020 to February 21 in Hudson County.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I have a question again back to Gabriela. Gabrielle, I'm sorry, not Gabriela. My question is, you're doing workplace organizing. How do you see it possible to bring the whole issue of ending ICE's detentions and deportations to workplaces and, to mobilize people, both immigrants and non-immigrants, around this issue as an issue of workers' rights? Do you see ways of doing that?
Yeah, for sure. I think for
Gabrielle, you muted yourself.
sorry, I don't know how much you heard of what I said, or if you heard
Just the first word or so. So just repeat.
Okay. Oh, good. What I was saying was that I, as brand workers, we have a vision for workers and for working people to be organized to the point where they're able to exert real power in not just their workplace, but across an entire industry. And I think the critical issue that we're facing right now, immigrant workers and non-immigrant workers, is just how stacked the deck is against working people organizing. And for me, in my mind and in my vision, like in order for our communities, for our workplaces, for our organizations to be prepared, folks have to be organized. And there's like systematic things right now that are obstacles to organizing, and many of them lie at the root of uh, really the entire framework that we've been operating under for the past 80 years, the National Labor Relations Act. Um, the system that we're operating under it's just a trap. It's a trap, and it's not conducive to work, to organizers working, to workers organizing, and without that, it's going to be very difficult. And that's why we are focused on organizing workers in their workplace.
But I guess the question is, how do you think it would be possible to have actions that workers in the workplaces you are organizing take part in to demand the release of detainees, for example, to basically say, this is a step that must be taken in order to have the rights of workers to organize?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the historical examples that you brought up are really kind of like helpful to understand, like how in the past immigrant workers have had power in this country, and it's only through organizing and through organized workplaces that we've been able to achieve like real radical societal change. And so, if the conception is like, how do we live in a society that isn't detaining immigrant workers, that a society without ICE, it's only through a movement of the scale that we saw in the 1930s of militant workers on a real national scale mobilizing to have the power to bring down these institutions. Power on the scale that you saw, like in the in the early 1900s, like I'm thinking like 1905 with the formation of the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World. We need like large scale sweeping social movements to change institutions like ICE.
But what's the next step towards that? That's the question.
For us, we're organizing food factories. For us, like our again, our vision is, can we organize a largely immigrant worker industry like food manufacturing in not the United States, but like in New York City, so that workers are able to exert some kind uh, to have a voice in the choices that are being made that impact their lives. So we're and it's debatable. Like maybe we're not doing it right, but like our answer to that question is you do it workplace by workplace and like factory by factory, trying to organize workers, and hopefully you get to a point where you start uh, like snowballing that, and that's what we're working towards.
Right. Okay, other questions or comments?
The first speaker that spoke about his time at Essex County, I just wanted to know his name. I didn't catch his name.
That's
writing it. Bryan, you said?
No, Bryan was was the last speaker. Marcial, M-A-R-C-I-A.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. I would want to ask Gabriel and Bryan. So I particularly work with like high school youth, undocumented high school youth in particularly, and I want to start having these conversations with them, um, especially as they navigate graduating high school and going into the workforce, and also being part of these communities that, you know, we are getting deported, we're getting detained. um, so how do we start having those difficult conversations? Do you have any tips or advice? Because it is a very difficult conversation to have, especially when folks are very young.
I don't. Do you want to start, Brian?
Well, I have a daughter here, and she's 2 years old. She's American citizen. So, but she gonna know what's going on with the immigration system. No, and I I work with with organizations, and they make OSHA for construction workers, and they also work with um, teenagers, no, teenagers like 10 years old or 12 years old. They all the time are talking about the immigration, and they prepare the people. They prepare these kids because they can be deported too, so they have to be prepared. And they go straight. The system is like this. They don't make like fake history. They tell the truth, and the kids understand that. You know, they understand. They know. They saw the parents in Queens, where I live, the 80% the teenagers, one member of family who's getting deported, or he have a order deportations. So for me, I think the the best way for solve about the immigration system is go straight.
Yeah, and I think on my end, you know, when we talk about the like the 7 steps to get your organization or your community prepared, oftentimes we are addressing an audience that's like a fellow worker center audience or a fellow immigrant rights group audience. But I think that it's um, that when we talk about teenagers, high school age students, like um, for them to also build their own organizations and like implement these same steps, like from what we saw in the audit experience at Tomcat Bakery, was that the when we were prepared for things, it mitigated the worst consequences. Of course, like the impacts of ICE in communities are just devastating. But if you're able to prepare for stuff, then you can mitigate the worst impacts. And so I would encourage, when I was in high school, I was in I was in an organization, a social justice organization, um, and thinking about I was if I was myself then, but now, what I would encourage my high school organization to do is to really kind of follow these 7 steps broadly. You know, does our organization have access to some kind of legal counseling? Like maybe not directly, but through an organization that will help us. Like, do we have an ability uh, to access know your rights trainings? Do we have committees in place? Do we have mental health practices in place? do we have some type of fundraising in place? And like, and also I think it's good for folks, like we don't learn these skills, like we don't learn these skills in school, but like the hard skills of organizing a campaign and organizing our workplaces, like really kind of worker organizing 101, community organizing 101 stuff. Do we have charts? Do we have lists of people that are in the community that we are addressing? Like, can we build social maps and can we build power maps? And like, you know, can we uh, figure out a framework to have really strong conversations that push people towards collective action? I think those are the things that I would think about for any community. But you know, I don't think high school is too young to start doing that stuff by any means.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing.
Further questions? Comments? Okay, well, listen, if there's no further discussion, we can wind things up. I do want to say that this meeting has been recorded and we will be putting it up on YouTube. And since all of you guys are out there are registered, we'll be sending you the links. And we really hope that you can publicize this to get it out to a much wider audience. I think the presentations were really great. And this is just the start of the discussion. So with that, I'll say good night to all and thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.